Emily woke up before the sun had even touched the sky. Her alarm rang softly at 5 in the morning, and she pushed herself out of bed. The little apartment she lived in was quiet, too quiet sometimes, and the thin curtains barely kept out the cold air. She dressed quickly in her plain black uniform, tied her hair back neatly, and stood for a moment in front of the mirror. Her eyes looked tired, but she forced a smile, the same smile she wore every day for the world. Emily worked as a waitress at a busy family restaurant. It was not a glamorous job, but it paid her bills and kept food on the table. She had been there for almost 3 years, working 6 days a week, often pulling double shifts. Her feet ached most nights, and her hands carried small burns from hot plates and coffee cups. But she never complained. She told herself that being hardworking was better than being hopeless. The restaurant itself was always loud and full of energy. Children laughed, glasses clinked, plates clattered in the kitchen, and voices blended together like one long song. Some waitresses grew frustrated with the endless noise, but Emily found a strange comfort in it. At least it made her forget the silence of her lonely apartment. When she arrived that morning, the restaurant was still waking up. The smell of fresh bread and coffee filled the air. Emily tied on her apron and got straight to work. She polished cutlery, wiped tables, and checked the salt shakers. Most people never notice these small details, but Emily believed that little acts of care mattered. She wanted every customer to feel welcomed. Her co-workers often teased her for working too hard. "Emily, you're not being paid extra to smile so much," one of the cooks joked. She only laughed softly in reply. She knew her smile wasn't for the money, it was for herself. Smiling reminded her that hope still existed, even if life felt heavy. Deep inside, Emily carried a secret dream. She wanted to manage a place like this one day, to lead with kindness and respect. She imagined a restaurant where employees felt valued, where customers left with more than just full stomachs, they left with warmth in their hearts. But whenever she thought too much about it, she quickly pushed the dream aside. She was just a waitress, after all, and dreams like that belonged to other people. The managers rarely noticed her efforts. They were often too busy counting receipts or rushing through reports. Sometimes they only spoke to Emily when there was a mistake, even if it wasn't hers. She had learned to keep her head down and stay quiet. But customers noticed her. They often asked for her section, leaving notes of thanks on napkins or giving her gentle smiles as they left. Those little moments were what kept her going. That morning, a mother with 2 children came in for breakfast. Emily greeted them with her usual cheer, bringing extra napkins and crayons for the kids without being asked. She knew mothers were always grateful when someone made things easier. Later, an older couple arrived, moving slowly to their booth. Emily carried their coffee with extra care, making sure it was neither too hot nor too cold. She listened as they talked about their grandchildren, nodding and smiling as if their stories were treasures. For Emily, each customer was not just a table number, they were people with stories, feelings, and lives of their own. Treating them kindly felt natural to her, almost like breathing. But despite her efforts, Emily often felt invisible to the people who had power in the restaurant. Once, after staying late to clean up a messy spill, the manager walked past her without even a word of thanks. Another time, when she covered an extra shift for a sick co-worker, her effort was ignored. She was simply expected to keep going, as though kindness was just part of the job. On her short breaks, Emily sat alone near the back door, sipping tea from a chipped cup she kept in her locker. Sometimes she scrolled through job postings on her phone, but most required experience she didn't have or degrees she couldn't afford. She sighed and put the phone away each time. For now, the restaurant was her world. As the morning hours passed, Emily's energy began to fade. Yet whenever a customer called her over, she stood straight and smiled, her tiredness hidden behind bright eyes. Her kindness was real, even if her strength was sometimes small. She often thought about her late father, who had taught her when she was little, "Work with your heart, Emily. People may forget what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel." His words stayed with her every day, guiding her like a gentle light. That day, as she cleared a table and balanced a heavy tray on her arm, Emily noticed something unusual. A new face appeared among the staff. A man, slightly older, wearing the same uniform but moving awkwardly as if he had never worked in a restaurant before. He stumbled with a stack of plates, nearly dropping them, and his expression showed embarrassment. Emily paused for a moment, then quickly stepped in to help. "Don't worry," she whispered kindly. "It's always hard on the first day. You'll get used to it." She steadied the plates and gave him an encouraging smile. The man looked surprised by her gentle tone, almost as if he had expected to be scolded. Emily didn't know it then, but this small act of kindness would change her life forever. That night, as she left the restaurant after a long shift, Emily walked home under the soft glow of the streetlights. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing clearly: even if no one noticed her efforts, she would keep doing what was right. Because kindness, to her, was never wasted. The next morning, Emily returned to the restaurant with the same tired eyes but the same brave smile. She tied on her apron, tucked a pencil behind her ear, and greeted the early customers with her usual warmth. The smell of pancakes and fresh coffee filled the air. The clinking of glasses and sizzling from the kitchen reminded her that another long day had begun. But something felt different that morning. There was a new staff member. Emily noticed him standing near the kitchen door, looking unsure of himself. His uniform was neat but didn't quite fit, as though it had been borrowed at the last minute. He held an order pad upside down, staring at it with confusion. Emily gave him a kind smile. "First day?" she asked gently. The man nodded quickly. "Yes, I'm new here. Just learning." His voice carried a mix of nervousness and politeness. "Don't worry," Emily said softly. "We all make mistakes at first. I'll help you." His shoulders relaxed at her words. Many workers on their first day were laughed at or left alone to struggle, but Emily had never believed in that. She remembered her own first shift years ago, when she had spilled a full tray of drinks and cried in the staff room. She had promised herself back then that she would always show kindness to anyone starting new. The morning rush soon began. Families filled the booths, children waved crayons, and the cooks shouted orders. The new employee, whose name was introduced as Sam, tried to carry 3 plates at once. His hands shook, and one plate nearly slid to the floor. Emily quickly caught it just in time. "Hold them like this," she instructed, showing him the safer way to balance the plates on his arm. Sam's face turned red with embarrassment, but Emily only smiled. "See? Easy once you know how." Throughout the day, she guided him step by step. She taught him how to write clear notes for the kitchen, how to refill coffee without spilling, and how to stay calm when customers asked for too many things at once. Whenever he made mistakes, she covered for him, stepping in with smooth words and quick actions so customers never noticed. Other waiters whispered to each other and laughed quietly at Sam. "He's too slow," one of them said. "He'll never last a week." Another rolled her eyes when Emily stopped to help him again. "Why are you wasting your time? He'll be gone soon anyway." But Emily ignored them. She remembered her father's advice: work with your heart. To her, helping Sam wasn't a waste. It was simply the right thing to do. At one table, a young child spilled juice all over the floor. Sam froze, unsure what to do. Without hesitation, Emily knelt down with a cloth, mopped it up, and gave the child a playful smile. "Accidents happen," she said cheerfully. She handed Sam the cloth and showed him how to handle small spills calmly so customers wouldn't feel embarrassed. The child's mother looked relieved and whispered to Emily, "Thank you." You're wonderful with kids. Emily blushed slightly but only nodded, moving on to the next task. As the hours passed, Emily noticed something about Sam. He asked a lot of questions, not just about the work, but also about the staff. How long have you been here? He asked her once while they carried trays together. Almost 3 years, she replied. And do you like it here? He asked again, his eyes curious. Emily hesitated before answering. I like serving people. I like making them happy. But, she lowered her voice. Sometimes I feel invisible. The managers don't really see us. They only notice mistakes. Sam listened carefully. He didn't laugh or brush off her words like others sometimes did. Instead, he gave a thoughtful nod, as if every word mattered. Emily found it unusual but refreshing. During the lunch rush, the restaurant grew busier. Customers lined up at the door, and orders piled up in the kitchen. Sam struggled to keep up. A family of 5 grew impatient as he fumbled with their order slips. Emily noticed and stepped in quickly, calming the situation with her usual gentle smile. I'll take care of you, she told the family. She guided Sam aside and explained the order system again. It's not about speed at first, she encouraged him. It's about being careful. Speed comes later. Sam gave her a grateful look. You're very patient, he said quietly. Emily shrugged, smiling faintly. Someone once told me kindness is never wasted. By the end of the day, Sam looked exhausted. His shirt was wrinkled, and his steps were slow. Emily, though equally tired, still encouraged him. You did well today. Tomorrow will be easier. Sam gave her a strange look then, almost as if he wanted to say something more, but he only smiled and thanked her. When Emily finally left the restaurant that evening, she walked home under the soft glow of streetlights once again. Her back ached, and her hands were sore, but her heart felt light. She thought about Sam and how nervous he had looked at first. She was glad she had helped him. What Emily didn't know was that Sam wasn't really a new trainee. He was something much greater, someone who had entered her life for a reason. Her simple acts of kindness had not gone unseen, and the truth would soon change everything. The next day at the restaurant began like any other. Emily arrived early, tied her apron neatly, and checked the tables with her usual care. She polished glasses until they shone and made sure the menus were free of stains. She believed little things made a big difference. Sam, the new trainee, came in shortly after. He still looked uncomfortable in his uniform, moving slowly as he tried to follow the morning routine. Emily greeted him warmly. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it, she whispered. Sam gave her a small smile, clearly grateful. Once again, Emily found herself guiding him, showing him where the sugar packets were kept, how to carry multiple cups of coffee, and even how to talk to customers without sounding nervous. The other waiters noticed and started whispering among themselves. Some rolled their eyes, others smirked. To them, Emily's kindness looked like wasted effort. But she didn't care. To her, helping someone new was simply the right thing to do. The breakfast crowd soon filled the restaurant. Plates clattered, children laughed, and the cooks shouted orders from the kitchen. Sam moved from table to table, but he still struggled. At one point, he almost dropped a tray of pancakes. Emily quickly reached out and steadied it before it fell. Careful, she said gently. You're improving, but keep one hand under the tray for balance. Sam nodded quickly, his face red with embarrassment. From across the room, however, the assistant manager, Mr. Collins, was watching. He was a strict man, known for his short temper and sharp tone. He didn't care much about kindness, his main concern was numbers, how many tables were served and how quickly. As Emily helped Sam, Mr. Collins frowned. He muttered under his breath, always wasting time. Later, While Emily was showing Sam how to enter orders into the computer, Mr. Collins walked up suddenly. His voice was loud, sharp enough that several customers turned their heads. "Emily," he snapped. "Why are you standing here chatting when you have tables waiting?" Emily froze, caught off guard. "I wasn't chatting, sir. I was just helping." Mr. Collins interrupted. "That's not your job. Your job is to serve your own tables, not babysit someone else. Customers are complaining about slow service, and here you are wasting time." Emily's face grew pale. She looked around the room. None of her customers had complained. She had checked on them all. In fact, many of them smiled at her kindly. But Mr. Collins didn't wait for her to explain. "You've been here long enough to know better," he continued. "If you can't do your work properly, then you're done here." The room grew silent. A few waiters stopped what they were doing. Even some customers stared in shock. Emily felt her heart sink. "Sir, please," she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I promise my tables are taken care of. I was only trying to help the new trainee." Mr. Collins shook his head. "No excuses. We don't pay people to waste time. Take off your apron. You're fired." The words hit Emily like cold water. Fired? Right here, in front of everyone? Her hands trembled as she untied her apron. She wanted to explain, to defend herself, but she could see in Mr. Collins' face that he wouldn't listen. He had already made up his mind. Sam stood nearby, frozen, guilt written all over his face. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but Emily gave him a small shake of her head. She didn't want him to get in trouble too. With quiet dignity, Emily folded her apron and placed it on the counter. Her eyes stung, but she refused to let tears fall in front of everyone. She looked around the room one last time: the tables she had served, the children she had smiled at, the regulars who always asked for her. "Thank you," she whispered to no one in particular, then turned and walked toward the door. The room stayed silent as she left. Only the sound of the kitchen continued, pans clattering and orders being shouted, but it all felt distant to Emily as she stepped outside into the cool air. Her chest felt heavy. She had worked so hard for years, given so much kindness, and yet this was how it ended, with an accusation she didn't deserve. As she walked home, her mind replayed the moment again and again. She thought about how she had stayed late many nights, how she had covered for sick co-workers, how she had always put the customers first. None of that mattered now. To Mr. Collins, she had only been a waitress who didn't follow orders. Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them quickly. She didn't want the world to see her broken. Emily sat on a park bench halfway home, staring at her reflection in a small fountain nearby. She wondered how she would pay rent, how she would buy groceries. The fear pressed heavily on her, yet there was also a small voice inside her that whispered, "You did the right thing." She remembered the look on Sam's face, how lost he had been, how grateful when she helped. That was real. That was worth something. Even though she had been punished for her kindness, Emily still believed in it. She told herself quietly, if I had to choose again, I would still help him. She didn't know it yet, but that choice, the choice to be kind even when it cost her, would soon open a door she never expected. Emily walked slowly through the streets after leaving the restaurant. The afternoon sun was still shining, but to her it felt like the world had grown dim. Each step home felt heavier than the last. Her apron was no longer tied neatly around her waist, it was folded in her bag, as if all those years of hard work had been folded away with it. Her mind replayed the scene over and over. Mr. Collins' sharp voice, the shocked stares of her co-workers, and the silence that had followed. She could still hear the words clearly, "Take off your apron. You're fired." She whispered to herself as she walked, "I didn't do anything wrong. I was only helping." But the whisper didn't take away the ache in her heart. When Emily finally reached her small apartment, she placed her bag on the chair and sat on the edge of her bed. The room looked the same as always: the worn curtains, the stack of unpaid bills on the table, the tiny potted plant on the windowsill, but everything felt different. She wasn't the same Emily who had left for work that morning. She buried her face in her hands. "What am I going to do now?" she whispered into the quiet. For a while, she sat without moving, just listening to the ticking clock on the wall. The minutes passed slowly, each one reminding her that tomorrow she had no job to go to. Later that evening, Emily forced herself to make a cup of tea. She sat at the small kitchen table, holding the warm mug between her hands. She thought about rent, groceries, and the electricity bill waiting on the table. The fear inside her grew stronger. She had no savings, no other job offers. She felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure if there was any ground left under her feet. Her phone buzzed once. She hoped it might be a message from a coworker, maybe even Sam, but it was only a reminder about her monthly payment. She sighed and set the phone down, her chest tightening with worry. As night fell, Emily curled up on the couch, hugging a pillow. She thought about the faces of her regular customers: the old couple who always asked for her section, the children who waved at her when they came in. Would they ask for her tomorrow and wonder why she wasn't there? Would they believe she had been careless, or would they remember her kindness? Her heart ached more at the thought of being forgotten than at the loss of the job itself. "Maybe I should have kept quiet," she whispered to herself. "Maybe I shouldn't have helped him so much. Maybe then I would still have my job." But even as she said it, another voice inside her answered, "No. You did the right thing. Kindness is never wasted." She closed her eyes and remembered her father's words from long ago. He had often told her that even when the world was unkind, she should still choose goodness. One day, he used to say, "Someone will see your heart, Emily. And when they do, everything will change." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered into the quiet room, "I hope you were right, Dad." The hours passed slowly. Emily lay awake long after midnight, her mind restless. She thought about searching for a new job, but the thought of starting over scared her. She thought about calling her mother, but she didn't want to worry her. She thought about going back to the restaurant to plead for her job, but she knew Mr. Collins wouldn't listen. For the first time in a long time, Emily felt truly small. She had always been strong, smiling through the long shifts, holding her head high when others overlooked her. But tonight, the strength seemed gone. Finally, she stood and walked to the window. The streets outside were quiet, lit only by the glow of a few lamps. A cat moved silently across the sidewalk. In the distance, she could hear faint laughter from a group of people walking home. Life went on, even while hers felt paused. Emily pressed her forehead against the cool glass and whispered, "Tomorrow will be different. It has to be." But deep down, doubt still clung to her. She lay down again, pulling the thin blanket over herself. As she drifted in and out of restless sleep, her mind painted pictures of what might come. She imagined herself searching for jobs in the morning, only to face rejection. She imagined bills piling up higher and higher. She even imagined walking back into the restaurant and seeing someone else in her place, smiling as if they had always belonged there. Each thought cut deeper, but still she reminded herself of one truth: she had done nothing wrong. She had chosen kindness, and though it had cost her job, she could not regret it. In her final moments of wakefulness, Emily thought again of Sam. She wondered if he was still working there tonight, if he felt guilty for what had happened. She hoped he wouldn't blame himself. After all, she had made her choice freely. "Maybe tomorrow will bring something better," she whispered one last time before sleep finally claimed her. And though the night was heavy with doubt, somewhere in the silence, hope remained small but steady, waiting for morning. The morning sun peeked through Emily's thin curtains, waking her from a restless sleep. Her eyes were puffy from crying the night before, and her heart felt heavy as she remembered everything that had happened. She sat up slowly, brushing her hair back from her face, and stared at the small pile of bills still waiting on the table. For the first time in 3 years, she had nowhere to go. No shift to prepare for, no apron to tie around her waist, no tables waiting for her smile. The thought made her stomach twist. She tried to remind herself that she had done the right thing, but doubt still whispered inside her. Just as she began to pour herself a cup of tea, her phone buzzed loudly against the table. Startled, she quickly picked it up. The screen showed an unknown number. "Hello," she answered softly. "Is this Emily?" a voice asked politely. "Yes, this is Emily," she said, her tone cautious. "This is the main office of Harris Family Restaurants," the voice explained. "We would like you to come to the central branch this morning. The owner himself would like to meet with you." Emily blinked in surprise. "The owner? Are you sure you have the right person?" I don't work there anymore." "Yes, ma'am," the voice confirmed kindly. "Please come at 11 o'clock. It's important." Before Emily could ask more questions, the call ended. She stood frozen in her small kitchen, the phone still in her hand. The owner? Why would the owner want to see her? For a moment she feared it might be a cruel trick, but something in the caller's voice had sounded serious. Her heart raced as she quickly dressed in her neatest clothes. They were simple, but she pressed them carefully, wanting to look presentable. She tied her hair back smoothly, took a deep breath, and whispered to herself, "Whatever this is, I'll face it with courage." The central branch was much larger than the restaurant where she had worked. Its tall glass windows shone brightly, and customers moved in and out with happy chatter. Emily felt small as she stepped through the front doors, her hands clutching her bag nervously. A receptionist greeted her kindly. "Are you Emily?" "Yes," Emily answered. "Right this way, please," the receptionist said, leading her down a polished hallway to a quiet office. Emily's heart pounded harder with every step. When the door opened, she froze. There, standing tall in a dark suit, was not a stranger but someone she recognized. It was Sam, the awkward trainee she had helped just days ago. Only now, he didn't look nervous or clumsy. He looked confident, with sharp eyes and a calm smile. Emily's mouth fell open. "Sam? What are you doing here?" The man smiled gently. "My name isn't really Sam. It's Harris. Jonathan Harris. I'm the owner of Harris Family Restaurants." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She blinked in shock, struggling to understand. You're the owner." "Yes," he said, stepping closer. "I was working undercover in your branch to see how employees are treated. I wanted to know what really happens when managers think no one important is watching." Emily's mind spun. All those moments teaching him how to carry trays, helping him with orders, protecting him when others laughed, it had all been in front of the very man who owned the restaurant chain. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would someone like you pretend to be a trainee?" "Because I wanted to see the truth," Mr. Harris explained softly. "And the truth is, you showed me more about this company than any report ever could. You treated me with kindness when you didn't have to. You taught me with patience when others mocked me. You protected me when no one else cared. You reminded me of what this business is supposed to be, people caring for people." Emily felt her eyes fill with tears, but this time they weren't from sadness. "But I was fired," she said weakly. "Mr. Collins said I was wasting time. Everyone saw me leave." Mr. Harris's expression hardened. "Yes, I know. I saw it all. And that's why I wanted to meet you. You were punished for being kind, but in truth, you are exactly the kind of person this company needs." Emily covered her mouth with her hands. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. For so long she had felt invisible, yet here was the owner himself telling her she mattered. "Emily," Mr. Harris said firmly, "I would like to offer you a new position. Not as a waitress. Not even as a shift lead. I want you to become the manager of that very branch." Emily gasped. "Manager? Me?" "Yes, you," he said with a smile. "You have the heart for it. You understand what true service means. And I trust you to make that restaurant better." Emily's tears spilled over as she shook her head in disbelief. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Mr. Harris replied warmly. "Say yes, and let your kindness lead the way." Emily took a shaky breath. She thought about all the nights she had gone home tired, all the moments she had wondered if kindness was even worth it. And now, here was the answer standing right in front of her. With a trembling smile, she whispered, "Yes. I'll do it." Mr. Harris reached out his hand, and Emily shook it firmly. In that moment, everything changed. As she left the office later, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, Emily wasn't just a waitress carrying trays. She was a woman stepping into her future with kindness as her greatest strength. The next morning, Emily stood outside the restaurant she once called her workplace. The same glass doors reflected the morning light, and the same smell of coffee drifted out when customers stepped inside. But this time, she wasn't there to serve food or tie on her apron. She was there as the new manager, though hardly anyone inside knew it yet. Beside her stood Mr. Harris, the owner of the entire chain. His sharp suit and calm confidence made him look very different from the Sam she had helped just days ago. Emily's heart raced. She couldn't believe she was about to walk back into the same restaurant where she had been fired. "Are you ready?" Mr. Harris asked gently. Emily nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "Yes. I think so." Together, they pushed open the doors. Inside, the usual morning buzz filled the air. Waiters carried plates, cooks shouted orders, and customers chatted happily at their tables. For a moment, no one noticed them. Then Mr. Collins, the assistant manager who had fired Emily, spotted them. He straightened his tie quickly and walked over with a forced smile. "Good morning, sir. Welcome. Can I help you?" Mr. Harris's eyes narrowed slightly. "Yes. Gather the staff, Mr. Collins. I have something important to say." Confused but eager to impress, Mr. Collins nodded and quickly called everyone together. The waiters, cooks, and even some curious customers turned to watch. Emily stood quietly at the side, her heart beating fast. When everyone was present, Mr. Harris stepped forward. His voice was calm but strong. "I am Jonathan Harris, the owner of Harris Family Restaurants. I visited this branch a few days ago, but not as myself. I came as a trainee to see how employees are treated." A ripple of surprise moved through the staff. Several waiters glanced at each other nervously, remembering how they had laughed at Sam. Mr. Collins's face went pale. Mr. Harris continued. "What I saw here disappointed me. I saw workers ignoring someone who needed help. I saw laughter at mistakes instead of patience. And most of all, I saw an assistant manager fire one of the kindest and most hard-working employees in front of everyone." Gasps spread across the room. All eyes turned to Emily, who stood quietly near the wall. Some staff whispered, realizing now that she had been helping the owner himself. Mr. Collins cleared his throat quickly. "Sir, with respect, she was not doing her job." "She was enough," Mr. Harris said firmly, his voice cutting through the air. "I was the one she was helping. She spent her time teaching me, guiding me, and protecting me when I struggled. She treated me with patience when others did not. She was doing her job better than anyone else here, because she showed true service." Emily's eyes filled with tears as she listened. For so long, she had felt invisible, but now her actions were being recognized in front of everyone. Mr. Harris turned to the staff. This restaurant is not just about food and numbers. It is about people. Customers come here for kindness, warmth, and respect. And if the employees cannot show that, then they are failing at their work. Emily showed me what real service means, and she was punished for it. That ends today. He paused, letting his words sink in. Then he turned toward Emily with a smile. Emily will not just return as a waitress. Starting today, she is the new manager of this branch. The room went silent. Some staff members looked shocked, others nodded with approval. A few even smiled, knowing deep down she deserved it. Emily's hands shook as she stepped forward. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Mr. Harris placed a hand on her shoulder. Say nothing. Just lead with the same kindness you showed me. That is enough. Mr. Collins's face turned red. Sir, you can't be serious. She doesn't have management experience. Mr. Harris's voice was calm but strong. She has something more important, heart. Something you clearly lack. From this day on, you will no longer hold authority in this branch. The words struck like thunder. Mr. Collins stepped back, his mouth opening but no words coming out. He lowered his head, realizing his mistake had cost him. Emily stood still, her chest rising and falling as she tried to believe what had just happened. A few waiters began to clap softly. Then the cooks joined in. Soon the whole room filled with applause. Even some customers, who had overheard everything, clapped and cheered for her. Tears slipped down Emily's cheeks, but she smiled through them. For the first time, she wasn't just a waitress trying to be noticed, she was a leader, seen for who she truly was. Later that morning, Emily walked through the restaurant with new confidence. She spoke with the staff kindly, encouraging them, reminding them that respect mattered more than speed. Some of them looked nervous at first, but as they listened, they realized she wasn't going to be a strict, cold manager. She was going to be fair, patient, and understanding. One young waiter approached her quietly. I'm sorry, he said. I laughed at you when you helped him. I shouldn't have. Emily smiled gently. It's never too late to choose kindness, she replied. As the day went on, the restaurant felt different. The staff worked with more care, and even the customers seemed to notice the change in atmosphere. The place no longer felt like just a business, it felt like a family, exactly what Emily had always dreamed of. That evening, as she stood by the window watching the sunset reflect across the tables, Emily whispered to herself, Dad, you were right. Someone saw my heart. And with that, her journey as a leader truly began. Emily walked through the restaurant that morning with a quiet confidence she had never felt before. The familiar smell of coffee, fresh bread, and sizzling food now felt welcoming in a new way. This wasn't just a place where she had served tables, it was her restaurant to guide, her team to lead, and her kindness to share. She tied her apron, not as a waitress, but as a manager, and glanced at the staff. Some looked nervous, others curious, and a few smiled shyly, realizing their new leader was someone they had once overlooked. Emily took a deep breath and called everyone together. Good morning, everyone, she said warmly. Her voice carried confidence but also gentleness. I know some of you might be surprised about me being the manager. But I want you to know one thing: respect, teamwork, and kindness are what matter here. If we treat each other and our customers well, this restaurant will succeed. Some of the waiters nodded slowly. They could sense she wasn't just giving a speech, she truly believed in what she was saying. Even Mr. Collins, who had been reduced to an assistant, stood quietly, realizing he had underestimated her. Emily began her day by checking on every table personally. She encouraged the staff to approach customers with warmth and patience. She guided those who struggled, offered advice kindly, and made sure everyone felt appreciated for their work. Slowly, the atmosphere of the restaurant began to shift. It wasn't long before the regular customers noticed the difference. The old couple smiled at her and said, "It feels brighter here today." Mothers with children thanked her for the little touches she still added to make families comfortable. Emily realized that leadership wasn't about giving orders, it was about lifting others up. Even the new trainee, Sam, now revealed to be the owner, watched quietly from behind the counter. He had assigned Emily the manager role because he trusted her, but he observed how naturally she inspired her team. Emily moved among the staff with a gentle authority, showing them that mistakes were opportunities to learn, not moments for shame. The days passed quickly, but Emily noticed small, meaningful changes. Tables were cleared more efficiently, waiters smiled more often, and customers lingered longer, enjoying the welcoming energy of the restaurant. For the first time, Emily felt that her hard work and her heart had truly mattered. One afternoon, a staff member approached her nervously. "Emily, I'm sorry for doubting you before. I laughed when you helped him, and I shouldn't have." Emily smiled softly. "It's okay. We all make mistakes. The important thing is what we do next. We can always choose kindness." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of experience. She realized that leadership wasn't about being feared or controlling, it was about inspiring, guiding, and showing that care mattered as much as skill. By the end of the first week, Emily's team was functioning like a family. Everyone treated each other with respect. Even Mr. Collins began to understand that kindness could coexist with responsibility, though he remained a little bitter at first. Emily didn't let that bother her. She focused on building trust, encouragement, and fairness. One evening, as the last customers left and the restaurant grew quiet, Emily stood by the window watching the sunset reflect across the polished tables. She thought about the journey she had taken from being fired for doing the right thing to being entrusted with the leadership of the restaurant. The tears she had once shed in doubt now felt like memories of strength. She remembered the nights she had walked home, unsure of her future, wondering if her kindness was wasted. And now, standing here as a manager, she understood that every small act of care, every gentle smile, every moment of patience had led her to this point. Emily smiled softly, whispering to herself, "Dad, you were right. Someone finally saw my heart." The next day, she introduced a small change. She set up a suggestion board where staff could write ideas, concerns, or compliments. She held short morning meetings to listen to everyone's thoughts and encourage teamwork. Slowly, she noticed that staff became more confident, more eager to help each other, and more proud of their work. Customers began to notice the change too. More families returned, praising the friendly atmosphere. Word spread that this branch felt different, not just a restaurant, but a place where people mattered. Emily felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that her dream of creating a warm, respectful, and welcoming place was finally coming true. One afternoon, Sam, the owner, approached her with a small smile. "Emily, you've done more than I could have imagined. This branch feels alive again. You didn't just lead the staff, you inspired them." Emily blushed slightly, feeling proud but humble. "I just wanted to do what was right," she said. "You did more than that," Sam replied kindly. "You showed everyone what real leadership is. You didn't just manage the restaurant, you changed it." Emily stood quietly for a moment, thinking about how far she had come. From a tired, overlooked waitress to a respected manager leading with heart, she had learned that kindness, patience, and belief in oneself could overcome any obstacle. That evening, as she closed the restaurant, she looked around at the polished tables, the smiling staff, and the empty chairs waiting for tomorrow's customers. She knew this was only the beginning, but she felt ready. For the first time in a long time, Emily felt truly at home in her own life. She whispered softly into the quiet room, "I will keep leading with my heart. Always." And with that promise, Emily stepped out into the night, her future bright, her spirit strong, and her kindness more powerful than ever.